September 1, 1944, Granville, France, a modest seaside villa overlooking the English Channel. Inside, the Supreme Commander of Allied forces in Europe stands alone before a wall of maps. General Dwight D. Eisenhower traces his finger along the thin red line marking the front. His armies have advanced 400 miles in 3 weeks. Paris is liberated. The German Wehrmacht is in full retreat. Victory feels inevitable. But Eisenhower isn't smiling. He's reading the supply reports. The numbers don't lie. His tanks are drinking 800,000 gallons of fuel per day. His supply depots are still on the beaches of Normandy. Between the fuel and the front line stretches 400 miles of shattered French roads, bombed bridges, and exhausted truck drivers. An army can outrun its enemy. It cannot outrun its supply lines. Eisenhower sets down the report. Somewhere in eastern France, the most aggressive armored commander in the Allied arsenal is about to discover this brutal truth, and the decision Eisenhower makes in the next 72 hours will either end the war by Christmas or extend it by 6 bloody months. Section 1. The Lightning Advance. August 1, 1944, Avranches, France. General George S. Patton, Jr., hasn't slept in 36 hours. He doesn't need to. His Third Army has just punched through the German lines at the base of the Cotentin Peninsula. The breakout everyone has been waiting for since June 6th is finally happening. And Patton intends to exploit it completely. Don't stop for anything, he tells his tank commanders at the morning briefing. If you run out of fuel, siphon it from captured vehicles. If you run out of ammunition, use captured ammunition. If your tanks break down, commandeer German tanks. Just keep moving. His officers exchange glances. This isn't doctrine. This isn't even conventional wisdom. This is George Patton. 20 miles the first day, 30 miles the second, 40 miles the third. The Third Army tears through France like a hurricane. Le Mans falls, Chartres falls, Orleans falls. The Germans can't establish defensive lines because Patton moves faster than their communications. By the time orders reach a Wehrmacht unit to hold a position, Patton's tanks are already behind them. We're not fighting the Germans anymore, Patton writes to his wife Beatrice. We're chasing them. August 25th, Paris is liberated. August 31st, Patton's forward elements are approaching the Meuse River, 70 miles from the German border. Then the tanks stop. Not from German resistance, not from mechanical failure, not from loss of will. From lack of fuel. An army can outrun its enemy. It cannot outrun its supply lines. Section 2. The Red Ball Express. The problem was always mathematics. By late August 1944, the Allied forces in France required 20,000 tons of supplies per day. Food, ammunition, medical equipment, spare parts, but mostly fuel. The Sherman tanks of the American armored divisions drank gasoline at a rate of 2 gallons per mile. The armies were hemorrhaging petroleum. The solution was the Red Ball Express, a continuous loop of truck convoys running 24 hours a day from the Normandy beaches to the front lines. One-way traffic, red ball-marked routes, no stopping, no sleeping. At its peak, 6,000 trucks rolled the express every day. It wasn't enough. General John C.H. Lee, commander of the communications zone responsible for logistics, appeared at Eisenhower's headquarters on September 2nd. His report was devastating. We're delivering 7,000 tons per day, Lee explained. We need 20,000. The gap is unsustainable. Eisenhower studied the map. His finger moved from Patton's Third Army in the east to Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery's 21st Army Group in the north. What happens if we prioritize one sector over the other? Lee hesitated, then one army advances, the other one stops. And if we try to supply everyone equally? Then everyone stops. Eisenhower dismissed Lee. Then he sat alone in his office for a very long time. Section 3. The Two Roads to Berlin *. September 4, 1944. SHIEF headquarters. 2 plans, 2 generals, 1 supply chain. In the north, Field Marshal Bernard Law Montgomery commands the 21st Army Group, British, Canadian, Polish forces. Montgomery has a proposal, a narrow thrust through the Netherlands, across the Rhine, and into the heart of Germany's industrial Ruhr Valley. He calls it Operation Market Garden. "Give me the resources," Montgomery tells Eisenhower over the phone. "All of them. I'll end this war in weeks." In the east, Patton has his own vision. His Third Army is perfectly positioned to drive through the Saar industrial region, cross the Rhine at Frankfurt, and punch into Germany from the south. "I can be in Berlin in 2 weeks," Patton tells his staff, "if they just give me the gasoline." Eisenhower faces the impossible calculus of coalition warfare. Montgomery is British. The British have been fighting since 1939. They have bled for 5 years. They need a victory, politically as much as militarily. Churchill himself is pressing for a British-led triumph. Patton is American. The American public is growing tired. There are congressional elections in November. A prolonged war will be politically costly. And somewhere in the shadows of this decision lurks an uncomfortable truth. Eisenhower doesn't fully trust either of them. Montgomery is brilliant but cautious, a master of the set-piece battle, methodical, sometimes too methodical. Patton is aggressive to the point of recklessness. He attacks, immediately, with everything, but he leaves his flanks exposed. He outruns his infantry. He gambles. Eisenhower paces his office. Outside, the sounds of aircraft engines fill the sky, transports flying supplies that will never be enough. He makes his choice. Section 4, The Decision. September 5, 1944, Brussels, Belgium. Eisenhower meets with Montgomery face to face. The conversation is tense. Montgomery is demanding. Eisenhower is conciliatory. "I need absolute priority," Montgomery insists. "Everything, all the fuel, all the trucks, all the air support. Patton can wait." Eisenhower doesn't like being lectured, but he nods. "You'll get priority for Market Garden," he says, "but I won't stop Patton completely. He'll receive enough to hold his position." Montgomery's face tightens. "That's not enough. You're compromising the entire operation." "I'm managing a coalition," Eisenhower replies coldly, "not commanding a British army." The meeting ends badly, but the decision is made. Montgomery's Operation Market Garden will receive priority. The largest airborne operation in history will drop 3 divisions behind German lines to capture bridges across the Netherlands. British armor will race north to link up with the paratroopers. If successful, the Allies will be across the Rhine and into Germany by the end of September. Patton will receive minimal fuel, enough to defend, not enough to attack. That same day, Patton's Chief of Staff, Brigadier General Hobart Gay, delivers the news to the Third Army commander. Patton listens in silence. His face turns red. His famous temper boils just beneath the surface. "Those British," he begins. Then he stops, takes a breath. "Fine," he says quietly. "We'll conserve what we have, but tell the men, when the fuel comes, we attack within the hour, not the day, the hour." He turns to study his map of the German border. They're making a mistake, and the Germans aren't going to wait for Montgomery to get organized. Section 5, The View from Berlin ***. September 6, 1944, Wolf's Lair, East Prussia. Adolf Hitler has been reading the same reports. His generals are panicking. The Western Front is collapsing. Hundreds of thousands of German soldiers are dead, wounded, or captured. The Allied armies are approaching the borders of the Reich itself. But Hitler sees something his generals do not. The enemy has stopped. "Look at the map," Hitler tells Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel. "Patton has been stationary for 5 days. Montgomery is reorganizing in Belgium. They've outrun their supplies." He taps the Siegfried Line, the German defensive fortification along the western border. "We have time, not much, but enough." Hitler orders the immediate reinforcement of the Siegfried Line, fortress battalions, Volkssturm militia, anti-aircraft guns repositioned as anti-tank weapons. Every available unit is to dig in and prepare for the inevitable Allied assault. "Make them pay for every kilometer," Hitler commands. "Buy us time to rebuild the army." The German war machine, battered but not broken, begins to recover. Across the Rhine, in the shattered industrial cities of the Ruhr, the factories are still running. The coal mines are still producing. Given a few weeks of respite, Germany can field new divisions, new tanks, new artillery. Hitler knows this. So does Patton. Only Eisenhower, caught between two competing visions, seems not to see it. Section 6, Market Garden begins. September 17, 1944, Holland. The sky over the Netherlands fills with silk. At 1:30 p.m., 20,000 paratroopers from the American 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions and the British 1st Airborne Division jump into enemy-held territory. It is the largest airborne operation ever attempted. Their mission: capture the bridges at Eindhoven, Nijmegen, and Arnhem. Hold them until British XXX Corps can drive 64 miles up a single highway and cross the Rhine. The operation is Montgomery's masterpiece, audacious, bold, everything critics said Montgomery could never be. At first, it works. The 101st secures Eindhoven, the 82nd takes most of Nijmegen, but at Arnhem, the crucial final bridge, things go wrong immediately. British intelligence has failed catastrophically. 2 SS Panzer divisions are refitting in the Arnhem area, the 9th SS Panzer Division Hohenstaufen, the 10th SS Panzer Division Frundsberg, battle-hardened veterans of the Eastern Front. Lieutenant Colonel John Frost and 740 men of the British 2nd Parachute Battalion reach the Arnhem Bridge. They dig in on the northern end. They radio for relief. Relief doesn't come. XXX Corps is stuck on a single highway, one road, 64 miles, every bridge a choke point, every mile defended. The Germans are flooding the polders. The armor can't advance off the road. Day 1, no breakthrough. Day 2, German reinforcements arrive. Day 3, the corridor narrows. Frost's men hold the Arnhem Bridge for 4 days, 4 impossible days, 740 men against 2 panzer divisions. Then they are overrun. Of the 10,000 men of the British 1st Airborne Division, only 2,000 escape across the Rhine. The rest are killed or captured. Operation Market Garden has failed. Montgomery's great gamble, the operation that was supposed to end the war, has achieved nothing except casualties. Section 7, The Reckoning. September 27, 1944, Versailles, France. Eisenhower reviews the after-action reports. The numbers are grim. Market Garden has cost 17,000 Allied casualties, 8,000 killed or captured at Arnhem alone. The Rhine remains uncrossed. The German border remains unbreached. And the war, which seemed won in August, now stretches indefinitely into the future. We've lost the momentum, General Omar Bradley tells Eisenhower. The Germans are digging in everywhere. The Siegfried Line is fully manned. It'll cost us 10 casualties for every one we would have suffered a month ago. Eisenhower says nothing. In a headquarters trailer somewhere in eastern France, Patton is also reading reports. His Third Army has been stationary for nearly a month. The fuel that should have gone to his tanks went to Montgomery's failed airborne operation instead. Patton writes in his diary, "Had we rolled on with 400,000 gallons of gas, we would have been in the Siegfried Line before the Germans could have manned it. Instead, we're giving them time to organize. This is a crime." A crime. Strong language, but not inaccurate. The fuel shortage of September 1944 has created a strategic stalemate. The Allies hold France, Belgium, and most of the Netherlands, but Germany remains unconquered. The Rhine remains uncrossed. Winter is coming. And in the Ardennes forest, the Germans are planning something nobody expects. Section 8, The Ardennes. December 16, 1944, 5:30 a.m. The artillery begins in the darkness before dawn. 1,600 German guns open fire simultaneously along an 80-mile front. The target, the Ardennes forest, the same terrain where German panzers broke through in 1940. Hitler is gambling everything. 3 German armies, 250,000 men, 1,000 tanks, 2,000 artillery pieces, launched the largest German offensive in the West since the invasion of France. Their objective: split the Allied armies in two, capture the vital port of Antwerp, and force a negotiated peace. The attack falls on the weakest section of the Allied line. 4 American divisions, spread thin across forested hills, face the full fury of the Wehrmacht's last reserves. VII Corps headquarters receives the first confused reports at 6:00 a.m. Heavy shelling across the entire front. German armor reported at multiple points. All communications cut with forward units. By noon, the American line is collapsing. The Germans have achieved complete surprise. Panzer columns are pouring through gaps in the front. American units are surrounded, cut off, destroyed. The Battle of the Bulge has begun. At SHAEF headquarters, Eisenhower receives the news with outward calm, but his staff sees the tension in his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes. "How bad is it?" he asks. "Bad," Bradley replies. "We've lost contact with most of VII Corps. The Germans are heading for the Meuse." Eisenhower studies the map. The German salient, the Bulge, is growing by the hour. If it reaches the Meuse River, it will split his armies, cut off the British in the north, strand the Americans in the south. He has one chance. Patton. Section 9, The Impossible Turn. December 19, 1944, Verdun, France. The conference room is cold. The faces are grim. Eisenhower has gathered his senior commanders for an emergency meeting. Bradley is somber. Montgomery is nervous, but Patton walks in with a gleam in his eye. He knows what's coming. Eisenhower opens with a blunt assessment. The present situation is to be regarded as one of opportunity for us and not of disaster. There will only be cheerful faces at this table. Patton grins. "Hell, let's have the guts to let the sons of bitches go all the way to Paris. Then we'll really cut 'em off and chew 'em up." The room is silent. Only Patton could joke at a moment like this. Eisenhower gets to the point. "George, I want you to hit the southern shoulder of this German penetration. How soon can you attack?" Everyone expects Patton to ask for a week. His Third Army is facing east toward the Saar. To attack north into the Ardennes, he would need to disengage his entire force, rotate 90 degrees, move 100 miles in winter weather, and hit a prepared enemy position. It would take any other commander 10 days minimum. Patton answers without hesitation. "I can attack with 2 divisions in 48 hours, 3 divisions in 72. The room erupts. "That's impossible," someone mutters. "It can't be done," another voice adds. But Eisenhower is watching Patton's face. He sees no bluff there, only absolute confidence. "When can you start?" Eisenhower asks. "As soon as you give the order," Patton replies. "My staff has been planning this for days. We've prepared 3 contingency plans. I just need your permission and unlimited fuel." Unlimited fuel. The 2 words hang in the air. 3 months ago, Eisenhower denied Patton fuel to support Montgomery's failed gamble, the decision that might have extended the war by 6 months. Now, in the greatest crisis the Allied armies have faced since D-Day, Eisenhower has a chance to correct that mistake. "You'll have everything you need," Eisenhower says. "Fuel, ammunition, air support, whatever it takes." Patton nods once, then he leaves the room to make a phone call. The impossible turn has begun. Section 10, Relief at Bastogne *. December 22, 1944, the road to Bastogne. The 101st Airborne Division is surrounded. The Belgian crossroads town of Bastogne, vital to German logistics, is besieged by 3 German divisions. The Americans are running out of ammunition, running out of food, running out of hope. The German commander sends a surrender demand. Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe reads it. Then he writes his famous one-word reply. "Nuts." But bravado won't stop artillery shells. The 101st needs relief, and relief is coming. Patton's Third Army has executed the impossible. In 72 hours, his 4th Armored Division has covered 100 miles over icy roads. His supply trucks are running around the clock. His tanks are rolling north through blinding snow. Eisenhower has kept his promise. The fuel is flowing. The ammunition is arriving. For the first time since August, Patton has everything he needs. December 26th, 4:45 p.m. Lead elements of the 4th Armored Division break through the German encirclement. The first tanks roll into Bastogne. The siege is broken. McAuliffe greets the relieving commander, Lieutenant Colonel Creighton Abrams. "Damn glad to see you," McAuliffe says. Abrams just nods. There's still work to do. For the next 6 weeks, Patton's Third Army hammers the German Bulge from the south. Montgomery hits from the north. By late January, the salient is eliminated. The German gamble has failed. But the cost has been staggering. 89,000 American casualties, 10,000 killed. It is the bloodiest battle the U.S. Army will fight in World War II. And it didn't have to happen. Section 11, Historical Verdict ***. The Battle of the Bulge ended German offensive capability in the West. Within 4 months, the Rhine would be crossed and Germany conquered. But historians have never stopped debating the decisions of September 1944. The fuel crisis of autumn 1944 represents one of the great what-ifs of the Second World War, wrote historian John Keegan. Had Patton been given priority, might the war have ended before Christmas? General James Gavin, commander of the 82nd Airborne at Market Garden, was more blunt. "We jumped into a hornet's nest that didn't need to be disturbed. The real opportunity was in the south." The numbers support this assessment. In early September 1944, the Siegfried Line was manned by barely 100,000 demoralized German troops, many of them older men and boys. Patton's Third Army had nearly 400,000 combat soldiers, plus overwhelming air superiority. By October, after the fuel diversion to Market Garden, the Siegfried Line held 500,000 defenders. The fortifications were manned. The guns were emplaced. The opportunity was gone. Chester Wilmot, in his definitive history, The Struggle for Europe, concluded, Eisenhower's attempt to pursue 2 strategies simultaneously meant that neither succeeded. The compromise was more costly than either pure strategy would have been. Eisenhower himself never fully accepted this criticism. In his memoir, Crusade in Europe, he defended his decisions as necessary for coalition unity. But in private conversations after the war, he was more candid. "I should have given George his head in September," he admitted to his son John. "We might have ended it then." Might have. The most tragic words in military history. The war in Europe ended on May 8, 1945. Germany surrendered unconditionally. The Allied victory was complete. But the cost, the blood price paid between September 1944 and May 1945, was higher than it needed to be. In September, with the Germans reeling and retreating, an aggressive push might have ended the war before winter, before the Battle of the Bulge, before 89,000 American casualties in the Ardennes, before the tens of thousands of concentration camp victims who died in the final months of the Reich. Instead, Eisenhower chose compromise, balance, coalition management. Noble goals, understandable priorities. But on a September afternoon in 1944, when Patton's tanks sat motionless on empty fuel tanks while Montgomery's paratroopers died at Arnhem, those goals came at a price measured in blood. General George Patton knew this. On the day the war ended, he wrote in his diary, "We could have been here 8 months ago. For the lack of fuel, we didn't make it." For the lack of fuel. Eisenhower knew it too. That's why, when the Battle of the Bulge erupted and every hour mattered, he didn't hesitate. "Give Patton everything," he ordered. Unlimited fuel, unlimited ammunition, unlimited authority. The decision he should have made in September, he finally made in December. It saved the Allied armies. It won the wars. But it came too late to save the lives that didn't need to be lost. March 1945, the Rhine River. General Patton stands on the bridge at Oppenheim. His Third Army has crossed the Rhine, the first Allied force to do so since Napoleon. Behind him stretches a supply line that runs all the way back to Normandy. Fuel trucks, ammunition convoys, everything an army needs to destroy an enemy. He looks east toward Berlin. The war has 6 weeks left. An aide approaches. "General, the photographers want a statement." Patton considers for a moment, then he smiles. "Tell them this," he says, "an army can outrun its enemy. It cannot outrun its supply lines, but when the supplies keep coming, there's nothing an army can't do." He turns and walks across the bridge into Germany. The tanks follow. This time they don't stop.